we couldn't get anywhere.
Purchase more items online. All right. What was the feedback from the other night?
Well, everybody really liked it. I mean, we talked to Anthony a little bit yesterday.
Yeah.
He was in the room, in Pax's room for a little bit. He said he wanted to do more.
Yeah, you got to go back. Follow that guy.
He wanted to do more of them starting next year, and he was going to bring in his, excuse me, his team to record them.
Yeah. I said to Janice, I said, I know it's hard to do because when you say I have encyclopedic knowledge, I don't mean to be not said with arrogance. It's just that's my edge.
Well, that's why I got up and I said that, you basically put out 80 hours of free educational material that's on, on the YouTubes. And then here's this poor kid trying to figure out whether he's supposed to use a 1 minute or a 30-minute trigger.
Yeah. Well,
I talked to the kid afterwards and I said, you got to go out to like a yearly chart all the way up so you can see what's going on.
I'll put the orange over here if you want to let me know. Yeah, I know. So.
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, every one of these firms wants these guys clicking the mouse in a short-term chart, and that's it.
Well, listen. If you're successful doing it, God bless you. But it's like why a lot of these guys went into these rooms and they became, commission jockeys for these guys. That's what they live on. So I don't know, but if it works for you, I have no problem with it. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the longevity of that is not great.
No, absolutely.
So the things that's going on is that Mexico gapped up, Russia gapped up, Brazil gapped up.
Why?
Why?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Why? The emerging markets have been terrible all week.
Yeah, I just think they just got down to levels that they were attractive. I mean, Mexico got back below its 200-day, and they just started buying it, and now it's up at resistance. So, can't chase it. If you bought them yesterday, great. If you didn't, well, wait.
Yeah, absolutely.
Russia came out with something. Putin came out with something this morning. I didn't have time to get through it, but he was talking about trying to get better controls of their production through technology and everything else.
Yeah, somebody explained to Jeff Bezos, when you want to play politics and you run certain risks, he's wondering why they lost the deal with the Pentagon. But, you want to play in politics, that's what, Trump is. I'm sure he directed that deal away from Amazon to Microsoft, which, hey, look around Chicago. You want to see the way business gets done? Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
And it's not like Microsoft isn't a credible company. No. It's got a, when I read that story this morning, I said, what do you think? You think that you can throw, lob Molotov cocktails at him all day long, and then when he has the ability to punch you in the face, he's not going? Of course he's going to.
Chris. All right, hang on one second.
Smartest way to harvest. And now you can find the computer for free. ZipRecruiter.com/news. ZipRecruiter.com/news. ZipRecruiter.com/news.
We just got it in the jungle last survey. He's celebrating.
Everybody celebrating. Be the team. It's a good night. This super strong backs. They'll never get, and they have a lifetime warranty.
I was doing 81. What? I was doing 81.
Sorry, Ira. I'm trying to get an oxygen prescription worked out. I mean, these people are still faxing stuff. I mean, it's just crazy.
No.
So, anyways. Yeah, that whole, I don't know, I was just looking at the patterns in the morning, like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning yesterday. I don't know if Angela was looking at it, picking stuff up just on the rotation down there on a Wednesday, Thursday deal. It's just a hard read. And everybody wants to be short, and they're all insane. The thing you missed today, when guys were telling me that, the head technician on CNBC said that was the high in Apple. It's like crazy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I've been listening. Janice and I've been listening to Bloomberg and CNBC and Fox.
I mean, this market's probably going to go higher. I expect it to go higher, but not necessarily for the right reasons.
Well, they've had those people out discussing, that earnings have. Bloomberg had a big article. Earnings have nothing to do with it. No kidding. You're in interest rate la la land, and it's driving all this. I don't care what everybody tells you, because the earnings are okay, but other indexes are really weak. So these guys who are out there looking at things are going, hey, I see a lot of things that don't support these valuations. And it's true, but it's just based on that you're going to get this deal done. So I'm waiting for them to finally get a document out there, and then to see how the markets react. That'll probably be a sell-off day after an initial rally.
I would agree with that, Ira. And but the only thing I would add is that assumes that the Chinese are willing to put anything, and I mean anything, on paper.
No, I agree. It's certainly an issue. It's certainly, and you know what? Hong Kong, nothing matters.
Hong Kong, in my opinion, is gone.
Yeah, maybe it just doesn't matter.
Hong Kong is gone. The U.S. is not going to do a damn thing. We're not going to send military or anything else over there.
No,
it's not going to happen.
No, it's a piece of paper.
But retail sales today dropped on a rate of change year-over-year basis, dropped 100 basis points from 4.1 to 3.1.
Yeah, when I saw
it's a slow motion. It's a slow motion slowdown on the consumer side.
First of all, I don't believe that the consumer. And there was that one young woman who asked a question the other night about the recession that I didn't get a chance to chime in on. I hate that discussion because recession, and I know we've talked about it before. Germany avoided a recession because they had 0.1% of growth rather than two straight quarters of negative growth. It's a joke, That's so pathetic. So when people start talking about recession, all they're doing, of course, is talking about the narrative that spins out of the mainstream media, and don't get caught in that. It's a silly discussion.
Yeah. And Ira, I think also to add to that point, I believe the last few actual recessions, consumer spending never actually went negative. It might stay flat or slow a little bit, but it doesn't go negative generally.
Well, that's right, and that's a good point. But that goes back to Powell's testimony earlier in the week when he talked about how household finances were in such good shape. It's just not true. He's comparing them to 07. But we don't want to deal with that, 07. Yeah, they're not. People are way overborrowed. That's why, then how do you square that with auto delinquency, auto loans being very high on, the 90-day delinquencies? Things don't compute. There's a lot of mixed messages here.
Ira, can you turn off your car radio?
No.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
hold on. How's that?
Better.
Much clearer.
Okay.
I mean, Ira, we also started to get some, I'm going to call them green shoots, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm talking about, like microscopic green shoots for Europe, okay? But I'm not taking that bait. And it's the same thing. Actually, Japan looks like they're getting less bad.
Well, Japan, Ira, is back at the 50% fib of all time.
Well,
so for me, I'd be more inclined to allocate a few bucks to Japan before I would do Europe.
Well, but be careful with Japan, because some of that, or a lot of it, is the Bank of Japan who's not buying JGBs, but is actually buying equities. So, they're definitely pushing up the Nikkei by that standard. So you got to be careful with that. And I know I see the price action too, and yet it's like the Nikkei, but it's still tied to how the yen is trading. It's still for but yen, I don't even know what the yen's doing. The yen must be down today, right?
Yeah, 34 ticks. It's 108.77.
Yeah. So it helps the Nikkei, but you have the Bank of Japan buying a lot of equity rather than bonds because there's no JGBs for them to buy.
Yeah.
And if you look,
there's two foreign markets, Ira, that I actually really like. Canada and Russia.
Me too.
That's basically it.
Me too. And again, Russia held up really well even when the emerging markets were getting whacked. I know the oil's up today because I heard it on the radio.
Well, it's up now.
Yeah.
Judd, what's up? Judd, what's up?
Oil.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's been ripping all day.
Yeah, it opened up on its lows and took off, and that's all on that Russian news about those guys, whatever they're doing with in their energy space, trying to. I don't know. I didn't even read the article. I just saw the headline.
But just to be clear, certainly oil will help Russia, but their economy, right? One of my research groups tracks the Russian economy, and on a rate of change basis, they've really turned a corner. And to me, that's the true underlying driver of Russia. The oil trade is the kicker.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's a good point. They got a whole lot else too.
I know, we don't really give much credence to the Russian economy, but the fact remains that you still have to track the Russian economy to determine, where are they on the sine curve.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. But don't forget that's also, we don't give much credence to it because the State Department and the professional foreign policy establishment in the U.S. always wants to detract about Russia.
Yeah. Yes.
Don't forget that if the Russian economy is growing, then evidently the sanctions are worthless, right?
That is absolutely.
So then they'd have to actually.
Ira, speaking to that, before I don't mean to interrupt, but I have to.
Yeah.
Import prices. Did you see?
I
Okay.
saw.
Okay. So, like, what's up with that?
Yeah, it's put a lot of pressure.
Look, I think the overriding macro factor is a strong dollar is deflationary, and I think that's what's negating or offsetting the effects of the tariffs.
Oh yeah, no question.
Well, yeah. So
No question.
here's the article in Russia, Ira. They're going to do a direct auction.
Wait, hold on. Anybody want to stop and eat the free 72-ounce steak at Amarillo? We'll shop for you. You'll find homeless things in there.
Avoid the Branch Davidians.
What is it? What are they having a giveaway at Arby's?
No. There's a place. They had one of the famous Simpsons. Homer Rowdy, a truck driver. Homer challenges him to eat there's this place in Amarillo that if you can eat a whole 72-ounce steak in an hour, you get it free.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I'm sure
My
they
feelings
got guys
exactly. I don't know. That's a lot of meat.
Too much.
All right, so the deal is that they have this Spymex exchange that they're doing. They're going to direct auctions, so they're not selling their crude to brokers.
Who's that?
Russia.
Oh.
So that was the news this morning that got it going.
And they're also selling off more dollars. They just don't want to be in dollars.
Oh, yeah. You know what, Ira? What is the quality of Russian crude versus Saudi versus WTI?
Well, I think it's probably in the middle. It's not I don't think it's heavy. I'm sure it all depends. Siberian, so they have different. It all depends where you get it out of. So I know it's a good, interesting question. Again, it all depends where it comes from.
Because that would mean that whoever the Russians are auctioning off their different grades of oil to have to have the refining capacity.
Well, the Russians have massive refining capacity too. They've always been. Because
so they could. So Ira, they could export like refined product as opposed to crude.
They could do both, yeah, but mostly they do raw crude though, because the pipelines are built for that.
They have options.
I don't know. Yeah, and don't forget the Danes pulled back from stopping the Nord Stream 2, by the way. So that is now being finished, and all these attempts to prevent that have failed. I don't know what Trump and Erdogan talked about in regards to that, but that was but the fact that the Danes agreed to complete the Nord Stream project was a very important step. That makes Europe totally dependent upon Russian, and that's heavily, I won't say totally, but certainly very heavily dependent on Russian gas. And there was some really bad back and forth between Donald Tusk, who's who was the Polish prime minister, but is the president of the European Council, and between him and Macron and a few others, because he's not happy the way Macron is dancing with the Russians as the Germans, and he voiced it. And there was a lot. This just happened the other day, so that's something to pay attention to. Although Tusk is done, but he, being Polish, rightfully so, he's not very happy with the Russians, and he thinks that Western Europe, meaning the Germans and the French, are way too comfortable with Putin right now and trying to make nice with him, and they're not very happy about it. So really another thing to watch in all this. But my stance with the Russians has always been those sanctions, and I truly believe that Trump really wants to get rid of them. And it's interesting. The only thing I find interesting about these Ukrainian, the impeachment things involving the Ukrainian. I have to tell you, when you listen to it, it's a joke because this woman's a 33-year State Department employee who serves as an ambassador. But if you're an ambassador, you serve at the pleasure of the president. Because look at all the idiot ambassadors. Listen, Caroline Kennedy being the ambassador in Japan. Come on, you know what? Don't take yourself so seriously.
Oh, God.
But pay attention, because if Trump doesn't really get punished by this, he's going to start making greater moves towards Putin. He's just been under so much pressure. But if some of this diminishes, I would absolutely look for a new dialogue to be commenced between the U.S. and Russia. It's kind of been it's been cold, but we'll see. And yet, again, speaking of just the investment side, RSX is up 34% for the year, 33%, and that's in spite of weak oil most of the year and sanctions not coming off, and yet it's performed pretty well. So, Matt, I happen to agree with it, and I like the Canadian too. I haven't seen anything what they're going on with the government, but they'll resolve that. And if Trudeau moves more to the center, that would be a real positive. Anything else burning in there?
Not really. I mean, everybody wants to be short. It's amazing, and it's a one-way train. And you're going to get a break. It's a matter of from where, and you got to have the setup for it. And in the meantime, don't fade it.
Yeah, I know. I know. I actually had this day written down as being the top, believe it or not, based on something so cryptic. I won't even tell you. But November 15th. Let's see. I'm not doing anything. I'd written it down because I pointed to. But look at this market is presently bulletproof. It doesn't matter what you throw at it. But I want to see what it does on the day that they announce an actual, some type of agreement.
Oh, Judd, Ira, I'm waiting for that too. I would love to see that.
Yeah, I've made one move. I've done one stock trade this week. I sold out my JP Morgan up at 128. I sold 128, and I took it and bought UBS. So that's the only move. And I only bought it because I wanted to be in a little more Europe. It's a healthier bank than most, and it pays a 5.5% dividend. So the JP Morgan with the run up, I think, is at a 1.8%. So it's probably a stupid gamble, but I want a little more exposure to Europe and less here. So.
Well, it was a really good spot technically to do it.
Well, and that I have the ABB. I'm trying to slowly crawl into Europe. EWG. I can't get myself to buy Deutsche Bank, so I took UBS. I still believe that UBS and Deutsche Bank are going to find some way to do something together. I don't know what it'll be. But that's
Ira, out of all the major European economies, I hate to say this, but France is at the top of the list.
Don't hate to say it. It's just the way it is. Macron's policy.
I can't bring myself to pull the trigger. My head says yes. My heart says no.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Again, you got to be mercenary about it. If that's what it is, that's what it is. There's nothing you can do. I keep looking at the soybeans here too, because with all this, the soybeans should be. Why are they holding above the 200-day? They run right in smack into the 200-week, and we're caught between the 200-day and the 200-week. so it's just building out nicely here. But they've held up better than I expected with no real deal with the Chinese. And I saw the numbers overnight that they put out about that Chinese import or Chinese shipment orders for beans from the U.S. were much lower than anticipated with all the talk going on. So, but yet the beans are holding up here. So it's just something to watch. I think the fundamentals are right, but the technicals are really a mixed bag. So it's tough to get committed to it.
Yeah, Ira, you got to be really careful about which chart you're looking at there too, because they all look different.
Yeah.
The daily looks one way, the daily continuation looks another, and the active daily looks totally different.
I know that's why, I use the longer term because the fact that they've held policemen, the fact that it's held 200 days really hasn't even come close to challenging it in a month and a half or so.
Yeah.
Even with the negative news. So, I just drove a lot of farmland. There's still a lot in Illinois, there's a lot of crop in the field. This is November 15th, there's a lot of crop out there. So we'll see what happens. The farmers have me convinced that the USDA estimates are way overstated, but we'll see. All right, I'm going to jump off. I'll talk to you guys. Hopefully I'll be in Arizona Monday, and I'll set myself up. I mean, I got ready to go until Tuesday or Wednesday, but thanks for the other night. I just want to thank you for that. That was good, and I think we should do more of these live ones. I think we could actually monetize it and make it very presentable, because there's a lot of information that
Anthony wants to do them. Pax wants to do them with just us.
Yeah.
So we should just.
All right. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll work on it. I was amazed at how many people showed up, and because I told Janice, I said I thought there was like 150 people there, and Pax said 80. I mean, Anthony said 80, but then he told me, well, 130, 140, and he kept climbing. So I don't know, but it was interesting, and it wasn't long enough because there were a lot of questions out there that went unanswered. So.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Yeah. Well, we talked to him a little bit yesterday. He wants to do more. He didn't record that one.
Right.
Just wanted to see how it was going to go.
Yeah, I know. I'll talk to him when I get. I know he's back in Naples, so I'll give him a call on Monday, and we'll talk and see what he's got.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Drive safe.
All right. Okay. Thanks. All right.
See ya.